Three, two, one. We're live, guys. All right, morning, afternoon, and evening, fellow IoT freaks and listeners. So, welcome to the first episode of IoT Coffee Talk on the topic of everything today, right? Rob, is that what you said? Is that what we're going to talk about?
Sure, why not? You know, we're all remote these days because of COVID, and IoT is a lot about remote stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm Leonard Lee. I'm the managing director and founder of NextCurve, and with me I have a bunch of friends who we all met in various venues, right? Rob, I met you a long time back at
Solutions World Congress thing. Yep.
Yeah, Solutions World Congress. You want to introduce yourselves really quick for the audience?
Hi, Rob Tiffany. I'm head of IoT's data strategies at Ericsson.
Marc, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? I think we met in Barcelona as well, and Rob, you introduced me to Marc a couple of years ago, right? At
Exactly.
IoT Stars. Yeah.
His awesome event.
Yeah.
I'm a founder of a startup, The Things That I.O. I'm also Sigfox ambassador and Balena.io ambassador lately.
Okay, cool. And then we have David Vasquez. You want to introduce yourself really quick?
Yes, I am David. And out of this group, I'm the lowest common denominator, but I'm really happy to be here. And I'm the biggest fan of all things manufacturing and IoT. Currently residing at Verizon. So thanks for having us, Leonard.
Oh, come on. Hey, I am not the host, okay? This is us. We're just hanging out. Don't even play that, man. Okay, we're here to have fun. I got my coffee.
All right.
You want to have a coffee? Marc, where's your coffee?
Sorry, I'm the hater. I don't like coffee.
What is
Is
that?
this like
in your head?
Is this going to be? Have you guys seen like the Jerry Seinfeld like coffees, cars, and comedians?
Yeah.
It could be like that. It could be like that. I think that's on Netflix or something.
I just remember Serenity now, man. And God bless Ben Stiller's father, who passed, right? Yeah,
you're right.
So yeah, he was funny.
Absolutely.
Anyways, let's jump into it, guys. Come on. All right.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so life in the time of COVID. Like Leonard, you and I, we did a deal a few weeks ago, talking about IoT and the stuff we're going through. You had some pretty insightful ideas. We talked about how we could be using IoT to do a better job of tracking, tracing, self-reporting, all kinds of things. I know a lot of our original thoughts were. We've seen some of the great work being done in South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore. Let's use our technology that we've spent so much time building to help us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's app data, it's location.
Yeah, and we all of us actually have been opining about that, right, for quite some time on LinkedIn about how some of these fundamental IoT concepts can be used in structuring and designing the response to the pandemic, And one of the things that I found out doing a lot of research on pandemic impact on supply chain is that we're really not using the technology all that well. I think we're resorting to these really archaic methods. I mean, what they call mitigation. I mean, geez, they were using the same approaches in 1917 with the Spanish flu, which is the mask and physical separation, or what is also called social distancing. I mean, come on, we're better than that, right? We have technology, like you're saying. I mean, it's like, why are we resorting to these really ancient methods of dealing with
Here we are 1 century later. We are like some advanced civilization from the future. You would think we'd have our act together, and yet we're doing the exact same thing that people did 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's that all
but
about?
we need to hear from Marc. I mean, you're in Spain. It was one of the countries that got really hit hard. And in fact, it's I think one of the ones that is on the road to recovery. I think you guys are settling down quite a bit. I mean, what was the experience, or what is the experience in Spain, and how have you seen the government and the disease control agencies use technology? I mean, are you seeing them actually do all this digital stuff that we always talk about?
Yeah, it has been, well, really hard on health system, as probably everywhere. But yeah, I have seen some things interesting, no? Like, first of all, the maker community moving a lot, no? Doing 3D printing, a lot of stuff, etc. Making ventilators from scratch, like certified ventilators. Then next thing that I have seen, for example, my grandma has been in the hospital. She's 96, but every 3 days, and she recovered, by the way. But
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, incredible. So
incredible.
Probably the drugs are working. But the thing is that every 3 days we had a Skype call with her. So like there was like a nurses in all the hospitals, like going with an iPad or whatever. No, and they had like a specific device, no, or to put on the bed, so you could talk with your with the people, no, your beloved in the hospital. So that was really interesting, no, how like a really simple technology, you know, can be used to make this social distancing happen. On the other hand, I have seen some interesting projects like these low power weight area network buttons, no, the Sigfox LoRa buttons, no, to push for emergency, etc. Now these buttons that you have in the hospital, but then if you have like thousands of people spread it in a stadium or wherever, no, with this super low cost and buttons that works really good. It's I have seen some of these projects. Then on IoT, that probably it's something very innovative that probably you don't know. I have been working on this fall4covid.io project. Actually, this project, what it's doing, it's I don't know if you know this project Rosetta at Home. Probably you know about SETI at Home. No, that was checking all these signals coming from space, no, with distributed computing to see if there was life outside. So actually, there is a project led by the University of Washington, the Baker Laboratory, I think, that is called Rosetta at Home. And what they do is they simulate the spike of the proteins of the virus to see, or to help scientists and researchers to find like the drug and the spike of the protein, etc. So actually, it's a distributed computing. So these guys are not using supercomputers as other research centers are doing. They are using the idlet CPUs from our computers to do this research, right? So there are like big companies now putting this software on the computer, so you never turn off you never shut down your computer. It gets idle and it starts calculating, no, for these guys, for these researchers. So what I was working last week was to putting this project not only on computers, on laptops, and supercomputers, but as well on IoT boards. So like Raspberry Pis and similar stuff. And after 4 or 5 weeks of computation, actually, it's the number 20 in the wall of computation, like IoT devices computing, for research on for COVID-19. So, I mean, it's not only devices, but as well, thinking on I have a spare Raspberry Pis at home, let's put them on to compute for research, right?
Nice. Oh wow! Way better than some technologies that Price keeps doing this.
Well, actually, the story is that I didn't have any clue about 3D printing or ventilators, etc. So, how can I,
How can you help?
That's like real innovation. Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's something super different. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So, hey, David, you with Verizon, the big IoT company,
big
right?
Red.
We are.
Yeah, the big red. Yeah.
Big red.
Yeah. So what are you guys saying? What are you guys saying?
Well, we're seeing. I know, Leonard. You guys published several articles regarding supply chain specific, how they have been affected by COVID one way or another.
Yeah.
And thinking, in the audience, what are the IoT concepts and or technologies that are being leveraged to, to solve for some of these things. So we are seeing that a lot of manufacturers that had either little visibility on their tier 1 supplier, but probably no visibility across tier 2 and tier 3. Now they're asking that IoT questions like, hey, how do I get data acquisition from all these points? And if I have it in the aggregate, could I make a better decision? Could I optimize my supply chain? If not, does that mean, in the case of Apple, do I move from China to Vietnam? Do I repatriate some? So, and as we've been, talking to customers, it's so IoT centric, just that concept of it's hard to manage, right? What you can't see. It's hard to make, take any action if you just don't know what you're going to do. So we're having a lot of conversations going all the way from the software core, so your supply chain management, which gives you a piece of the puzzle. How do you connect that from tier 1 to 2 to 3? And then in a mobile IoT example, where are the opportunities for you to drive value out of seeing things in transit as they move, through the oceans? If Luke was here to talk about that, through Marc's lower piece, or where there's M1 over here, etc. So there's tons of these IoT conversations to solve some of these problems that we're facing today.
So are you seeing any of your clients approaching you guys about trust in the supply chain? Because that seems to be something that is becoming of increasing concern, especially around these essential items such as PPE and the test kits and such, where there's a lot of counterfeit or dubious suppliers out there providing these essential supplies, right? Are you guys seeing anything like that?
We are. And what's funny is that, so, it's always good to do something that you've learned from before and you have battle wounds to show from to put them in your situation. So, as and Rob from our friends at Ericsson is here. We use a lot of gear that we don't manufacture, right? And we serve a lot of government and federal entities. So we need to make sure that the provenance of the equipment that we use, comes or doesn't come from certain places, right? So we have these things in place already. And again, due to COVID, some of the conversations that we're having are like, hey, from a supply perspective or from a, from a data perspective, is this data the right data? Has it been tampered with? Because if all these customers, big and small, there's no putting together a advanced analytics ML AI strategy if you cannot confirm that the data you're building this model with is the right data, wherever it came from. So we went from doing this for our own supply and governance and assuring our customers of certain things to now, how do we take that to other things like physical materials, machine data, and bunch of other things that we're like, we could do that too. So let's go ahead and do some fun stuff. Yeah. We're not boring. We're cool.
Fake data, just like fake news, right?
Yeah. You know what? No one's drinking coffee. What's going on?
Sorry.
Yeah, coffee time. Marc?
I should talk.
Marc's drinking like his 10-liter container of water.
Marc's closer to Cañas than we are. So it's almost there.
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, I think, Rob, do you have any last thing to say because I think we have to wrap up. I got to get out of here. So this is.
You got to get out of here.
I got to get out of here.
Whatever.
I got a whole day ahead of me.
You know, what's come to mind lately, and not necessarily about IoT, but just, you know, different words or concepts have been popping in my head as we've been going through this. You know, sometimes it's just single words like remote or digital or isolation, or, you know, I started writing down this list because you know the observations that you have yourself with your family, you watch the news, you see what's going on, and you look at these just different concepts and say, are these new concepts that are going to drive innovation, businesses, societal things in the future? Because I've been slowly compiling. I don't know, maybe I've got 10 down there, but they're in many cases they're really different than the concepts that we would have thought were important 6 months ago. Think about, like, right now we're using this Zoom platform. Zoom was always something that I used when I was communicating with a startup because they didn't have any money, and so they used Zoom because it was free. Seriously, and now look at it; it's taken off. You know, and people. You know, my wife is a school teacher; she's teaching school from our house to her kids, and they use Teams, but they're using Zoom too. People get Zoom envy as soon as they see like 24 pictures on a screen. They're like, how do I get that? I want that. There's so many things going on, and you're right, it relates to data and IoT, the remoteness, remotely knowing things, remotely doing things. We're in a world of remote because we were trying to be safe. I think there's some big themes that we could drill into in the future that are going to drive things forward, you know, in the coming years based on what we're going through right now. Hopefully, you know, I know it's awful to say, but hopefully you find some kind of silver lining or some new things that we've learned and maybe got better at because of this coming out.
Yeah, actually, it's very sorry, Leonard, but it's very interesting that I did research like 10 years ago, and actually, no, I was doing research on education, health, etc. And some of the topics that we were writing about was about about something like this, no, having education at home, mix, at home and school, or on health system, how to do checks from home, things like that. No, that today are the new reality. But I was writing and reading about these like 10 years ago. And never happened, and then one day, like,
we're back to the future.
This is awesome. We have like these amazing thought leaders on this talk. This is cool. Forward-thinking guys.
And there's like personal and commercial silver linings to to this. You know, I mean, personally, I've because the time at home is forced. We've had to reinvent our days. Right? Because there is no, I've got T-ball, I've got ballet, I've got swim, and we're going hike. There's none of that, right? So how do you reinvent and adapt your life at home? And and through work, all of us work with customers, have customers that depend on us, and every bit, if we've done a good job, and this crew we have, if we've done a foundational job of giving customers things that they know they can rely on you for, then that bridge to something new because of the pandemic was much easier to cross because there was trust already. Trust in delivery, trust in knowledge, trust in ultimately making sure that words are followed with action. So anyway, that's just on my semi-caffeinated.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think there's going to be a redefinition of what critical infrastructure is, especially from a digital aspect. And that's some of the research actually we're doing right now is figuring out what are some of the residual things that are going to be left over once the pandemic is over. And it will be over. And the thing is though, I think in the interim, one of the focus areas that we should have as a world, quite honestly, is figuring out how do we use technology to better deal with the pandemic in terms of living with it. We have to live with this thing for quite some time. It's not going to be over tomorrow, next month, maybe not even next year. And so what are we doing today to innovate in a direction where we're managing the risk that this pandemic is going to persistently pose to us over the long term? And it's going to be a long term, even when they get to a point where we have a vaccine, because now you have to figure out how to deploy or immunize everyone. And that in itself is going to be a massive logistics challenge that we'll have to figure out, because we all live in a global, economy, society, and we can't leave anyone out, because it only takes one person to start this pandemic or an epidemic all over again, right? And so, we have to figure out how do we live with this thing without having to lock down the entire world, because that's not sustainable in and of itself, right? So, but hey, guys, really got to go. I can only drink so much coffee with you guys, but wow, this was really fun.
Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah,
yeah.
We might accidentally solve all the world's problems on these talks.
Yeah,
that'd be
great.
No,
I know we can. Rob. I mean, come on, what are you talking about? But okay, in closing, yeah, that was really fun, guys. Thanks to all our listeners, and we anticipate there will be many. Please subscribe to IoT Coffee Talk podcast initially on the Next Curve site, which is www.next-curve.com. But we'll be publishing the podcast broadly, so keep following us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just look us up. Rob, David, Mark, and we're going to have some other folks joining us in the next session. And we'll be back next week with another episode of IoT Coffee Talk, and we hope you'll join us. So, hey guys, thanks a lot, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
That's good. Thanks.
All right. Cheers.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
And connect a lot of things. Bye.
Bye.